Okay, for the next part of the lesson, we're going to first just check so that you can kind of see what you got. If you got any of those answers wrong, we'll talk and see what you might have done that we can make some corrections on, okay? So no worries if you miss those. So for the final, you're also going to need to know how to add and subtract mixed numbers with unlike denominators. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So just as a reminder, whenever I have mixed numbers, the first thing I have to do is I have to make those into improper fractions. So just a reminder that I take 2 times 5, which is 10, plus 3, and that's going to be 13 fifths. So I'll write 13 fifths. Oops, sorry. Oops, the paper's wanting to move. Sorry. So I'll do 13 fifths, and we're going to go ahead and subtract. So we're going to do the same thing. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4, and we have 4 thirds. So we've made these into 2 improper fractions. So with those 2 improper fractions, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we have to do what we did at the top. Sorry, I'm going to move over to this placemat so maybe it'll help out. So we're going to take these 2 denominators and we're going to multiply them. So we're going to equal these to 15 because 5 times 3 is 15. So we're going to make these both 15. And 3 times 5 gives me 15, so I'm going to do 4 times 5, which is 20. And 5 times 3 gives me 15, so now I have to do 13 times 3. And 13 times 3 may be a little tough, so I may have to come over here and do this on the side, and I get 39, and then I would put 39 at the top. Now I'm ready to subtract since my denominators are the same. So 9 minus 0 is 9, and 3 minus 2 is 1, and I wind up with 19 fifteenths. Well, of course, that's an improper fraction, so we have to change it back to a mixed number. So down here, I'm going to do 19 divided by 15, and I'm going to get that I can put 1/15 into there, subtract, and I get 4 as my numerator. So that's my numerator, so 4/15. So my final answer is 1 4/15. Okay? Lots of steps when we do mixed numbers. So some of our common mistakes might be forgetting some of these steps because they do take a lot of steps, okay? So this next one is 2 3/4 plus 1/2. So I don't have a mixed number here, but I have a fraction, but I do have to change this to an improper fraction. So I'm going to do 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11. So I'm going to make this 11/4 plus, always check my sign, plus 1/2. Okay, so now what I'm going to have to do is make equivalent fractions because my denominators are different. So I'm going to do 4 times 2, and that gives me 8 for both denominators. And since 4 times 2 is 8, 11 times 2 is 22. And since 2 times 4 is 8, 1 times 4 is 4. Then this tells me to add. So 22 plus 4 gives me 26/8, and I have to change that back to a mixed number. So down here, I'm going to do 26 divided by 8. 8 can go into 26 3 times, and I have 26 minus 24 is 2, and I get 3 2/8, but I can also reduce 2/8. So again, lots of steps. So I'm going to divide this, and I'm going to actually divide it by 2. And 3 2/8 is going to equal 3 1/4 as my final answer. So hang in there if you're still like so many steps with this, okay? All right, even more steps. We have 5 5/6 minus 1 2/3. So I'm going to do 5 times 6 is 30 plus 5. So 35/6 minus 1 times 3 is 3 plus 2 is 5. So we have 5/3. So if we look, we have 2 different denominators. So 6 times 3 is 18. And if you know how to do 6 as your denominator for both, go ahead and do that. We're just doing this way. So 3 times 6 is 18. So 5 times 6 is 30. And 6 times 3 is 18, so 35 times 3. Wow, that's a big number, so I might just kind of go up here, figure that out, is 105. Then I have to do 105 minus 30 over 18. Some big fractions. Okay, so if you have to, go over here and do 105 minus 30 and set it up. 5 minus 0 is 5. I have to borrow, so this becomes 10. So I get 75 over 18. Huge fraction. So now I gotta do a mixed number. Gotta change it to a mixed number. So I'm gonna do 75 divided by 18. And I think I could fit 3 or 4. I'm not quite sure. So I may just kind of go over here and figure 18 times 4 is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 72. Whew, just made it. So we're going to make this a 4. This is 72. 5 minus 2 is 3. And I have 4 and 3/18, which I know I can divide that by 3. So my final answer is 4 1/6. Okay? Because I can divide that by 3. All right, last one on this one, and yes, these are tough ones, is going to be 1 3/10 plus 2 1/5. So we're going to make this 10 plus 3 is 13/10 plus, that was a bad plus sign, 10 11/5. We're going to add those together, and I've got 10 and 5 here, so I can make this 50. So I'm going to make this equal 50 and make this equal 50. And this is 5 times 10 equals 50. So 11 times 10 is going to be 110. 10 times 5 equals 50. So 13 times 5 is going to equal, I think that's 85, but I could be wrong. Okay, so 13 times 5, 15, 65. I was wrong. Okay, so now I'm going to do 65 plus 110 over 50. So there's 50. So I add 5 and 0. So I have 175 over 50. Holy cow, what a big, huge fraction this is going to be. So now I have to change that to a mixed number. Okay, so since I can count by quarters, I know 2 of those would be 100, and 3 would be 50, 50 is 100, 3 would be 150, and 4 would 2. So I know I can just fit 3 here. So I get 150, and I get 25, and that's kind of a lucky break because 25 is half of 50. So I know my final answer is 3 1/2. Okay? I know these ones were tough. We did kind of the tougher ones together. You're going to turn your paper over. You're not turning your paper over. You will turn your paper over. And then you're going to try these problems here. These problems are easier. They're more unit fractions with smaller numbers. So hopefully those will be a little bit easier. So I'm going to have you go ahead and check these 4 problems on your own. And then I'll come around and check them and help you with them as needed, okay? And then we're going to move on to our next video, which will be actually solving the word problems.